Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Bryant, and welcome to the first episode of Keeping Up with Keith, the interview series. Today, I have a special guest. I'm very excited to interview him. He is a mentor, he has been a positive influence in my life. So I'm so happy for you guys to meet him. And he's also, again, he was the founder of the San Diego Association of Black Journalists. He was awarded the President's Award from the National Association of Black Journalists and also an award for being one of the founding members of the NABJ LGBTQ Task Force. So today we are keeping up with Jerry McCormick. Hello, Jerry. How are you?
Hi, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here, being my inaugural guest on the show. I'm very thankful. I think everyone's going to love you because again, you've been a positive influence in my life. So I'm excited just to dive deep about your career and how you made the pivot to journalism to what you're doing today. So, how'd you get your start?
So I knew I wanted to be a journalist ever since I was 8 years old, but I didn't know what it was called. And so I remember going to see a movie about a guy who was from a different planet. He had this colorful costume and he flew around saving people, saving the world. But I wanted to be his girlfriend, Lois, because she got to go on adventures and she got to write. So fast forward to my senior year in high school, and I was in a composition class, and the composition teacher asked us to write an essay, in class essay. So it took me all of 10 minutes to do it on the subject. And I walked up and handed him the paper, and he was like, "You wrote this?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Huh. Okay." And then he gave me another subject, and I don't remember the subjects, but I remember I just whipped it out. And then he's like, "Stay here. I'll be back." And he went to the junior vice principal's office and showed him the paperwork. And then over the intercom, I got called to the office. Long story short, they really liked my writing and they said that I should be a journalist. They encouraged me to go into journalism. And so that kind of ignited the fire in me, but I didn't really know what journalism was. My family, we grew up watching the news. We read the paper. 60 Minutes was a must watch in our house. And out of 9 kids, I'm the only one who went into journalism. So go figure. And then I went through college. I did yearbook, to get some experience. And then I did a very, very super short stint in the Navy, like blinking you missed it. And I just realized that was not for me. And I got out. And so then I moved to Cleveland, Ohio to live with an older brother of mine. And how I got my start, actual physical start in journalism, was I went downtown Cleveland, where at the time the Cleveland Plain Dealer was located. And there was this woman outside and she was smoking a cigarette. So I asked her, "Hey, do they have any jobs in here? I want to be a reporter." And she was like, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Well, I just moved here from South Carolina." And she's like, "Oh, I love South Carolina. I was just at Myrtle Beach." So then I realized, wait a minute, this woman could get me in this building. So I really started talking like this and really put on the accent. And so she was like so enthralled with me. She said, "Okay, well, let me bring you into the building." So I couldn't find out this lady was head of HR. And so she gave me a typing test. I missed it by 1 word. And she was like, "Come back in 3 days, take the test again." That time I passed it. And she says, "Okay, we're going to start you out as a sports clerk." I said,
Mhm.
"What's that?" And she says, "Well, you take box scores." I said, "What's that?" And I was not into sports. And to this day, I'm still not into sports. And so imagine me going into this sports newsroom and they looked at me like, "Where did they get this guy?" And so, again, I knew nothing, like zero about sports, but yet I was expected to do this job. So I went out and bought books about basketball, football, baseball, and I read it. And if I didn't know anything, I would ask my coworkers, like, "Hey, what is this?" And they would say, "Okay, this is a box score, runs, hits, errors, that sort of thing." So I learned over time. Well, this one particular day, we had a really bad snowstorm in Cleveland. And I was the only clerk that managed to get to work. Everybody else couldn't get to work. And still, and to this day, I don't know how they did this. High school sports was still going on in parts of Cleveland. And so I had to take the box scores. And it was just me and this one other guy, and I got all of them correct. And because of that, really started gaining respect in the newsroom. I was there about a year and a half, and the black reporters in the newsroom, they came to me and said, listen, you're too smart to be sitting back here taking box scores. You need to move on. At the time, I was like, well, where am I going to go? So this one lady, Margaret Bernstein, she told me about this internship program called the Midwest Newspaper Workshop for Minorities. I got it. I participated in it, and then wound up working for an afternoon paper, the Tribune Chronicle in Warren. And then I went to my very first national NABJ convention, which was in Detroit in 1992. And that changed my life because I didn't know there was an organization, one, and I didn't know that there were people doing what I wanted to do. And it was just such a magical experience. Everyone was so friendly. It was so nice. I was like, I really want to be a part of this organization. So I joined, and maybe about a month later, I started getting phone calls at work and my voicemail saying this guy wanted to talk to me. His name was Russell Small, and he was the copy desk chief for the Gazette Telegraph in Colorado Springs. They
Hmm.
flew me out. I went, I got the job. I moved out to Colorado and stayed there for a while. And then I moved back home to South Carolina because my mom had gotten sick. So I lived in Columbia at the state newspaper. I was working there, and that was the newspaper I grew up reading. So to me, I had achieved my dream working at that newspaper. Fast forward to 1999, I went to Unity, which is at the time, it was the Black, Asian, American Indian, Hispanic journalists all agreed to have a convention every 4 years, which coincided with the presidential cycle. And the people at the Union Tribune approached me, and that's how I got to San Diego, and been out here ever since. And one of the things I realized that there were a lot of Black journalists at the time here in San Diego, and we needed to form a group. And so we founded the San Diego Association of Black Journalists. In 2010, we hosted the national convention, and that was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And people still talk about that convention because people did not realize how nice and beautiful San Diego was. And so that's been my career. I was in newspapers for a very long time. And then in 2009, I got laid off because of the economic downturn. And so I was like devastated the day that it happened. But networking is important because the week before, I was at NBC 7 San Diego. I started teaching part time in 2006, and I was at NBC San Diego with my class. And I said to the news director, Greg Dawson is his name, I would not be surprised if there were layoffs at the Union Tribune. This was a Friday. The following Thursday, I got laid off. I mean, sorry, following Wednesday, I got laid off.
Wow.
And so then I posted on Facebook, well, just got laid off. Don't know what I'm going to do. And Greg called me within 2 hours and said, hey, I heard you just got laid off. Why don't you come work for us? And I said, I don't know anything about broadcast except the news comes on and it's magic. And he says, well, we can teach you. And so that's how I started my broadcasting career. I worked part time there, but it wound up being 40 hours. And then they said, hey, they need some help on the morning show. Do you want a full time job working on the morning show? Of course, I said yes. And I did that until 2014, working on the morning show. And then I did a stint in the afternoons. Then in 2014, I got an offer to be an executive producer in Oregon at the CBS TV station in Oregon. And unfortunately, that was one of the most worst experiences I have ever had in my entire journalism career.
Hmm.
They didn't want me from day one. And what wound up happening is the first day that I got there, I did not know that they were going to get rid of someone else and have me replace that person. And that happened day one. And so I
Wow.
came into that newsroom with bad juju.
Yeah.
And so they, was under the gun from the get, and no matter what I did, those people just did not like me. And so finally it all came to pass one day when they hired this other producer, and this other producer apparently was known for taking broadcasts from, number 4 to number 1. I had raised ours to number 2, but my boss was like, we need to be number 1. So they hired him, and one of the anchor people came to me and said, listen, I'm just going to be upfront with you. They hired him to replace you. And so she gave me a heads up. And so I'm like, okay. And I just started watching. And then one day they set me up. So my morning reporter had gone to this fire and he heard of a chop shop. And I said, no, 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 I want you to stay at the fire. We need to get more information about the chop shop. Well,
Mm.
his live shot comes, and where is he at? He's at the chop shop. And I was ticked,
Wow.
but at that point I couldn't do anything about it. So we went through the shift. I left, went to go to the movies with my husband. When I came out of the movies, I had like 20 voicemails. And I'm like, what is going on? And I called my news director and she said, well, you almost got us sued. And I was like, what? How? And she said, well, the chop shop that the reporter was at was actually the staging area. And so he was referring to the staging area, a business behind the staging area, as the chop shop. And I'm like, "Oh my god." And I said, "Well, I didn't send him there. He went there on his own." And he's like, "Well, that's not what him and the producer are telling us. They said that you ordered him to go there." And nobody would back me up. And I
Mhm.
said, "I did not do this." And so from that point on, my relationship with the news director soured. Then I came down to San Diego for Comic-Con just because I love nerdy things. As you can see, I'm wearing a Captain America shirt.
Yes.
And when I got back, the assistant news director was waiting for me sitting watching my show. So he watched the show for like 3 days. And then on the fourth day, he said, hey, I need you to come into my office. And I already knew what was going to happen. And so this man had been there literally maybe 6 weeks. And I said, you don't get to do this. She hired me. Tell her to bring her butt down here and do it. If she don't let her do your dirty work. So she came in and she was like, well, it's just not working out. And I'm not going to fire you. And I'm going to make you the weekend morning producer, which is like the worst shift. You work overnights on Fridays and Saturdays. It's just the worst shift ever. And I'm like, nope, not going to do that. I came here to be an EP. I'm going to walk out being an EP. And I had problems at that station. Some of the employees had called me the N word, and I went to her, and she was like, "Well, you just need to toughen up, and you need to show them who's the boss." And it just was a really bad situation. But in a way, I'm kind of glad I had that because I knew what I would take and what I wouldn't take. Excuse me. And
Yes.
also, it showed me how strong I was, and also it was just really detrimental to my health. I had gained 100 pounds over the course of a year and a half because I was just eating away my stress. And so I quit. I broke my contract. I quit. I'm like, screw it. I'm out of
Good
here. And I came back
good
to
for
San
you.
Diego. And of course, I could not find a job at NBC because they had already replaced me. And so I did get a job at Fox 5 San Diego, and I worked there for about a year and a half or almost 2 years. And it was okay. I really enjoyed the people. There were some people I didn't like, but most of the staff was really cool. And to this day, they still love me. And so I did that. And then I realized, you know, I called the current president Felon 47 because that's what he is. Felon 47 won the first time, and I said, "Nope, can't do this for 4 years." And so I started looking for other positions, and I even in my rundown, I even had a 3-minute block every day in the A block called Trump something because I knew he was gonna say something or do something, and we were gonna run a package, and lo and behold, every day that got filled. And
Mhm.
so I started working for the city of San Diego as a public information officer, which transitioned me into public relations. And I was there for 7.5 years. And I loved the job. I had some bumps along the way. I'm not going to say it was like rainbows and unicorns, but for the most part, I really like working for the city because I'm a very service oriented person. And then one day, it was in April of 2024, it occurred to me, I was at an event and I said, I had gotten all the media there. I had the newspaper, I had all the TV stations, that sort of thing, because I still have my hands in journalism. And luckily, I've created a reputation that if I come to a reporter with something, a pitch, they will take it because they know it's going to be good because I don't believe in wasting people's time. And so while I was at this event, I said, I'm doing a really good job of promoting the city of San Diego, but I'm not really promoting myself and what I do. And one of the things I teach my students is you got to look out for yourself. You got to look out for your brand, start creating it early. and nurture that brand. Well, I wasn't doing that. I was telling them to do it, but I wasn't doing it. So then I became really active on LinkedIn. And I'm going to tell people, do not sleep on LinkedIn because you don't know who is looking at your LinkedIn page. You just don't know. And so I really started, putting pictures up, writing little summaries. Hey, did this, got the pools on, the different stations, that sort of thing, just really
Hmm.
playing up my media experience. So August 2024, I'm sitting at my desk downtown in the city administration building, and I get a call from a recruiter for Cal State San Marcos and said they created this new position, Director of Strategic Communications, and they think I would be a perfect fit for it. And I said, well, what is that? And so they basically said, you will handle any sort of crisis the school has, and you would work on getting positive promotion for the school with the media. Well, I'm like, I could do that. And so I went, I interviewed, and to be honest, I had barely heard of this school. I knew it existed, but if you said, where is it? I couldn't tell you where it was.
Yes.
And so I went to the school, which is in San Marcos, is North County here in San Diego, and the school is dynamite. It's got too many steps climbing up and down the steps. The running joke is it's called School Stairmaster because there's steps everywhere because it was built in the side of a hill. But other than that, it's great. They have new facilities. The teachers are great. The environment is great. And I said during my interview, I could really see myself here. And I got hired and I just celebrated my 1 year anniversary with them. I love them. They love me. I have never felt more accepted in a place in all my years of journalism. I'm the only gay person in my department. I'm the only Black person in my department, and I am the oldest person in my department. But they make me feel young. They value my opinion. They value my expertise. Because one of the things, unfortunately, I learned after you get a certain age in this business, depending on what you do, people don't want you as much. And so at the time of this recording, I'm 57 years old. And so I thought, oh, I'm 56. They're not going to want me. I'm too old. They probably want someone like in their 20s or 30s who could do this. And they were like, no, we want you for your experience. And that's very rare today because people want younger, faster, better, with more skills. And for me, I feel like I have landed in the lap of heaven. So that's my villain origin story in a long nutshell.
That's great, Jerry. We have so much to unpack. I didn't know you started as, I guess, a sports journalist and stuff. So, wow. So, I guess because like you adapted to many situations throughout your career. So, I mean, what's your best advice for, adapting to so many those situations? Because you went from, sports to news, you did broadcast news, and you became an EP, a professor. Now you're doing strategic communications at Cal State San Marcos. I mean, yeah, how did you adapt?
I tell my students always be learning. In my spare time, I'm constantly taking in information. I adapted because I needed to survive. I've been on my own pretty much since I was 18 years old. I mean, I come from a very poor family in South Carolina, and my parents are like, okay, we've raised you. Best of luck to you. And so I had no safety net. And so when you need to survive, you will do what you have to do to survive. When I was in Cleveland, I was working as a sports clerk, but I also worked as a shift manager at a Taco Bell in the daytime. I will not eat Taco Bell to this day because I've smelled it, seen it enough, but I had to do that to make rent. And so for me, I grew up, like I said, I grew up super poor. Uh, for my own school clothes, I had to work in the fields. So I picked cucumbers, I made crop tobacco, I picked cotton. I did all of that to make money for school clothes. So it was just instilled in me very early that you have to do what you have to do to survive. Stay legal, obviously, don't commit crimes, but do what you have
Yes.
to do. So honestly, when I started my journalism career, I thought I would just be in newspapers forever. I thought I would retire at the Union Tribune, writing headlines and working on copy, but life didn't work out that way. And it's funny, I feel like all of my experiences led me to this because I needed to know newspapers. I needed to know broadcast. I needed to know public relations. Now I feel like this job as director of strategic communications, it combines all of my loves into one. I love working with students. I love writing. I love Sing, oddly enough, I learned to love producing. I know about deadlines because some of these reporters will try to do an okey doke on me. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need this by one. You have until 3:30. And so they're like, oh yeah, I forgot you used to work in because they want more time to write their stories. And I'm like, no, you're not going to pull that on me. Uh, and so I feel blessed. I feel very lucky. Unfortunately, there are colleagues of mine who got laid off way back in 2009 who were never able to find another position. Even today, I am very worried about the state of journalism. A lot of people are trying to get out. And this is one of the most needed professions in the world because people want to know what's going on around them. They do. But the thing of it is it's shifted so much that people don't trust what people are saying now. And I never thought I'd live in the world because I grew up, if you read it in a newspaper, it was true. If you saw it on TV, it was true. There was no social media to muddy the waters. You trusted these reporters, you trusted what the anchors were saying. I mean, there was an anchor, Walter Cronkite, when I was growing up, and he would always end the broadcast, and that's the way it is, and then whatever date it was. And you just believe that. Now I see so many mistakes. I see a lot of opinion. There's one source stories, and it's just like, what is happening? And I'm not trying to knock the new generation because, we need someone to carry the torch. But I feel like my group, we had this fire because we had to be trailblazers, right? In order for all of you all to come. And now it's like, even my students, some of them are getting into journalism and they only stay 2 or 3 years and they're like, no, this isn't for me. I'm going to go work somewhere else and I can make more money. And unfortunately, the pipeline is drying up. And so they're just taking like, I have students who are working in local TV stations right now. 10 years ago, that would be unheard of because you had to go to something smaller,
Mhm.
they train you and then you moved up. I have a couple students who are like on air right now. I'm just like, wow, you're in the market 26, but desperate times, desperate measures.
I think you touched on a point that, you know, our industry is going through change. I was told you gotta start small and work your way up. The newer generation doesn't really care about that as much.
Mm-mm. A lot of them want the influencers. That's what they want because they see the quick, fast money in that. And, my thing is this journalism is not for the weak. It really isn't. I think people have this glamorized version of what it is. And then when they get into it, it's like, oh, it's really like this. But I knew jump. I knew you're going to have to work long hours. You're going to work holidays. You'll probably be away from your family for a while. You're not going to make a lot of money, right? You're going to be just taxed to the max. But I still wanted to do it because my love of writing, my love of being nosy, all of that was just important to me.
Now I want to focus back to NABJ and SDABJ because just, oh God, for disclosure, people, I was president of the San Diego Association of Black Journalists from 2021 to 2023. And Jerry, that's because of you and Donna.
Voluntold.
Yes, I was voluntold. And this year, SABJ celebrated their 25th anniversary. So, Jerry, I know you were a founding member, 25 years. What does that mean to you?
It's amazing. Honestly, I've been a member of NABJ off and on since the 90s, and chapters have come and gone, right? And when I started this chapter as the first president, I was like, I wasn't thinking 25 years in the future. I really wasn't. I was like, we need this now. And the fact that we've survived all of this time and we put, over 75 students in college with scholarships, it's just a nice legacy to leave. I will say that I am worried about our future because very fewer people are going into journalism and particularly Black people. And so, because right now everyone's hearing these horrible stories about the media. So, and the students are like, well, I need to make money. I got to pay off these student loans. I don't want to go work in Butte, Montana, making $30,000 a year working for the Butte, Montana. I don't know if that's the name. I'm making something up. The Butte, Montana Press. But at the same time, it's like there's no other job like this. You get access. You tap into power. You learn things that other people don't get to know, and you get to be really good at Jeopardy. And so that has to be the force that drives you. If you're here to make money, you need to go find something else to do because this ain't it. You know, if you're here because you want a 9 to 5 cushy job, this ain't it. But if you want to write, you want to tell stories, and you want to make an impact in the world, welcome. We're glad to have you. But as far as us being 25 years, even some of the other chapters in San Diego of the other groups like Asian American, Hispanic, NLGJA. So a lot of them have come and gone because, this market, people come and go all the time. And very few people are like, I am here to stay. People want to live in San Diego, but the pay isn't what it should be because they pay us in sunshine. And, people want to get back to their families. And this market is what I call it, a feeder market. People come here, they sharpen their skills, and then they get picked up by CBS, ABC, NBC. And I'm not talking like the next local, I'm talking like the networks come and pick them up because they are watching these reporters here. And the same thing with print reporters. They'll go to the New York Times or the LA Times or a bigger paper. But very few people are like, this is it. This is where I want to be. And most of us who stay have some sort of tie here. I hadn't intended to stay here, to be honest. I was just going to be here for a couple of years, get the experience, move to Atlanta to be, in the city, be with my friends and my family, close to my family. But then I met my husband, and he has ties here, and his family is here. And so, that being said, we just decided to stay. There are worse places to be. Now, the drawback is I don't see a lot of Black people because we're only 6% of the population.
Hmm.
I can go days without seeing another Black person. And it's now become just sort of, become numb to it. But I recently went to go visit my best friend in Atlanta 2 weekends ago for his birthday. And it was just Black people everywhere. And I was just eating it up. I was like, oh my God, there's a Black lady. There's a Black man. Oh, there's a bunch of Black people. And I was just so happy because it was just like, wow, I'm amongst my people. But
Hmm.
I'm okay living here. He's fine with it. I'm fine with it. We created a nice life for ourselves. I'm cool. But there are some people that's really important that they be amongst their own. And so they get here, they do their time, and they're off to the next thing.
Yeah, no, San Diego is a great, I always recommend San Diego is a great place to work, live for news, because like Jerry said, you can feed up to the network or make a very comfortable life there as well. One more plug about SAVJ, just so you can learn about more of the organization. I'm going to put it in the description at nabjsandiego.org. Again, it's nabjsandiego.org. You can join or donate to our scholarship. I think over the 25 years we have, I want to say we gave away more than $90,000 plus, or maybe $100,000 plus now in scholarships to students. And we do that every year. So if you want to donate, please just go to the website, nabjsandiego.org. And Jerry, so I got two questions left. And
Okay.
so what advice do you have for people? Your personal experience, your live experience. What advice do you have for, I guess, journalists, people in media right now today?
So I'm going to steal something from another thing that I do. I'm part of the Peloton cult. And one of the instructors says, sometimes you have to clap for yourself when nobody else will clap for you. And I've taken that to heart because I've been told I can't many, many times in this business. And there's times I believed it, like maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I suck or whatever. And then I look at the work I've done, I'm like, yeah, I'm more than enough. I'm great, you know? And so, because you're going to have people who are going to try to beat you down and tell you you're less than. And when they tell you you're less than, what they're really saying to you is that you're more than. You're more than, and they're trying to bring you down to their level. And so you just keep looking up. So I would do that. The second thing is this. You have to be in this business because you love it. You absolutely love it. Because there have been times, don't get me wrong, every day it's not, woo, it's the best day ever. No, there's gonna be some times you're like, I really hate this. But overall, if you wake up in the morning and you can't wait to see what kind of story you're gonna do or see where the day takes you, or, look back and go, we did that, we affected change, then this may not be for you. So, those are my pieces of advice for journalists.
Okay. And lastly, the last question I'm going to be asking every guest on your show. So, Jerry, what is Jerry McCormick keeping up on these days?
I am keeping up on my health, particularly my mental health, because the one thing about this business is you experience a lot of trauma. And what I mean by that is you're reporting on robberies, deaths, really bad things. And after a while, you just start taking that home with you. And so what I did for the longest time is I ate away at my stress. I would eat, 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 and my health was going down, down, down. And now, being older, I don't have youth to protect me anymore. And so I make sure I do something every single day to preserve my mental health, or I call it protecting my peace. Unfortunately, one of those things is not watching the news from morning till night because it's just so depressing these days. And so what I do now is I'll watch things via YouTube and I'll pick out what I want to see. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm burying my head in the sand, but if there's something like a plane crash in India, what have you, thank you for letting me know, but I don't need to see the gruesomeness of it. You know what I mean? So I'm really a proponent of protecting my mental health. And it's different for different people. Some people may need to watch the Great British Baking Show to kind of unwind. Me, I'm more of a House Hunters HGTV person. Like I'll turn that on. It's like, oh, look at the houses in Texas, you know? And so I do that. But for me, it's all about protecting my mental health. And I tell people, you can't give away what you don't have. And so if you don't have peace of mind, you can't help others have peace of mind either.
Wow, that's great. And Jerry, where could my viewers follow you if you want to be followed on social media or LinkedIn? Where could my viewers find you?
They can find me at Jerry McCormick. And that's another thing I tell my students too is try to own your name. And I actually learned that from Oprah. One of the things she said was she became more powerful when she owned her own stuff. And so your name is kind of, if you ever saw the movie The Incredibles, there's a scene where I don't Elastigirl and the two kids are in a cave after they've been shot down in a plane, and she gives them masks and say, "Protect your identity; it's your most valuable asset." And so it's the same thing with. Notice I worked the nerdiness in.
Yes.
It's the same thing with your name. Your name is your most valuable asset. So I don't associate with any and everything. If you see my name with something, it better be quality. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for joining me today for this, again, the inaugural episode of the Keeping Up with Keith interview series, Keeping Up with Jerry McCormick today. Jerry, thank you so much. And guys, if you want to be a guest on my show, just DM me, message me. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Keep Up with Keith. Again, it's at Keep Up with Keith. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.